Y'all, it's my 1 year anniversary. So thank you for being here. If you have been here since a year ago, that is so beautiful and I thank you so much. My very first video got something like 1,500 views, and it was purely because I flogged it to my networks, and my friends are so supportive, and it was such a beautiful thing, and I just never expected that I would get that many views on any video. And it has not recurred, and I have not felt comfortable asking for that same level of support from my networks because I don't want to get tiresome, of course. But I was optimistically hoping to get to the level of trying to like get the channel, like monetize the channel, get to that, whatever that next step is on YouTube, to sort of unlock more potential for the channel by this point, which has very much not happened, which is fine. It'll just be a long, slow climb. And I see it climbing, and it's like starting to climb by itself, which is really exciting. I will take it. I'm stupid excited for subscribers that are, unknown to me. I'm just so grateful y'all are here, and all the subscribers before that who are known to me. And so yeah, it's pretty fantastic to be watching it grow just organically. And I think the key would be to post more videos, obviously, more regularly. I'm trying to keep to the regular Wednesday 2 p.m. and then Monday at 2 p.m. has become sort of the alternate, like maybe I will, maybe I won't. And that seems sustainable for now. I really have this fantasy of like getting up super early in the morning, banging out a 10-minute tarot reading, editing it. They're so easy to edit when they're 10 minutes long, like no problem. And just like getting up a daily habit of that. And I think that'll probably help grow the channel more than this weekly offering. But this is the 1 year anniversary reading, and it's special. Anyway, that is enough about me. How are you? How y'all doing? Thank you so much for being here for a year. That's so incredible. And I really didn't, I was like, I'll post a video on YouTube. And then it got so many views that I was like, I guess I should continue. And I really did not fully anticipate still being here a year later. And, I think a lot of people are like, I'm going to do tarot on YouTube, and they are prepared for it. And I just dove in. I was like, I want to learn tarot. I'm going to post it as I'm learning it. I didn't really have any expectations of like being professional with it. And, I still like resist being like as professional as perhaps other readers on YouTube, because I want this to be enjoyable for me. And I also want it to be enjoyable for you. Let's get into it. So we're going to look at, I'd like to start by looking at past energies, then we'll get into current energies, and then we'll go into sort of person A, person B a little bit. So I think I'll use this one and this one to do that, and then we'll look at some tarot and maybe bring in a few channeled messages at the end. So we'll just, I am a fan of shuffling on screen, so Spirit, please tune me into the collective and the person in their heart and what they need to know at this time about the connection. I may just pause and say it really is an honor to be trusted with your heart, with you bringing your heart here to these readings. And I try and hold that foremost in my heart. I was going to say my mind, and in my mind too, but my mind kind of messes things up sometimes. So I try and hold things in my heart as much as I can. Minds do tend to have their own agendas, don't they? So, but really, thank you for being here, and thank you for trusting me to read your tarot. Oh, look, we've got strength and communicate, receive and express the truth, determination, perseverance, and self-discovery. So let's get some let's see what the past energy of your connection has been. So, and this can be used as like a little bit of an energy check-in. You can see if you're in the right reading. So what are the past energies of this connection? Holy, that just was like 10 cards wanted to come out at once. So we've got divine timing. Everything has a higher purpose. Success. It's your time to shine. Success from what you pour your heart into, and boundaries. Know when to put up and let down your walls. We'll get a couple more. And with that, we got a couple more. Overcoming obstacles. Get back on your feet. Gain strength from difficult situations. And awakening. A realization, shift, or discovery. Bottom of the deck, we've got strength again. Look at that. So we'll hang on to that, I suppose. Okay, so it looks as if your connection maybe has been just a little bit sort of like maybe you were missing each other a little bit. I don't mean in terms of like, wishing each other was there, although maybe that too. But in terms of like just going, when you're like not quite connecting. So with divine timing, it might be that the timing was a little bit off, and that, potentially. So this card is referring to, if timing was not aligning, then there was a reason for it. And part of that reason might have been that you, or even your person, like if you're seeing, you could, interpret this how it resonates for you. But it does say it's your time to shine, success from what you pour your heart into. And so it might be that you were working on something at the time that you connected with your person, and that, maybe there was a need for some boundaries, maybe to do with a work situation that you were, or some kind, maybe not work, but whatever you were putting your energy into. It might be that you had to set some boundaries in the connection because of that. And this card is reminding us that putting up those boundaries, it's important. Knowing when to take them down also is important. Knowing when boundaries are sort of keeping us from connection, as opposed to being healthy. Healthy boundaries are important, but boundaries that are too strong are not healthy, right? Overcoming obstacles, get back on your feet. So you or your person might have been going through something in another part of your life at that time, or it might be that in the connection there was, some obstacles that were kind of popping up, and it looks like that process might have ended with an awakening. So some kind of shift or discovery, like something became known in that process. So I'm just sort of seeing the energy of like two people kind of missing each other in that sense of not fully aligning. And then with strength, this is highlighting sort of being on your own journey. So perhaps you've been in separation and you've been on your own journey since, maybe the time that the cards are referring to. If that's resonating, then you're in the right place. So let's have a look at, do we want to stay with this deck? I think I'm going to stay with this deck for this sort of current energies, and then maybe we'll go into tarot in this part, because I think tarot's kind of important for current energies. So we'll just get a couple cards for what are the current energies in this connection. What's going on right now? Past life connection. Someone with heavy influence from a past life is with you. So we'll talk about that in a sec. Just get a couple more cards, one or two. Ooh, that was a fancy little dolphin leap. We have self-awareness, tapping into your higher self, questioning routines and patterns. Let's get one more current energy card, or two, apparently. Bottom of the deck, we've got sacrifice, giving up something now for a future reward. What's this? There's something under here. Oh my goodness. We had baby Yoda under there. He's a little bit dirty, but this is our baby Yoda coaster. Baby Yoda showing up in the reading. You can just hang it over there, I think, and be part of the reading. Oh, I did also want to show y'all in this particular anniversary reading. So I have this fun habit of when I'm at an event or a festival, I like to fill a hat box with, things that I sort of in character in the moment think that I need. And then it's like running away from home, but at some point, I think a friend wanted to go with me. I was just sort of like having a minute, and I turned it into a bit, and I was like, I'm running away from home, and I packed all the things I would need into my hat box, and the hat box kept falling open because it's an old antique and it doesn't stay closed very well, and I was just sort of going with the tantrum of it all, and kind of hyping it up just to be silly and pretending to be like a 7-year-old having a minute. And my friend came over and was like, well, can I run away from home with you? And like, what is home and where are we running away from? And I was like, well, from camp, obviously. And so she wanted to come with me, and she's like, I'm not that into running. Like, do you think maybe we could sashay away from home? I'm pretty sure she's the one who said sashay. And so we sashayed away from home. And so we just took long strides, and we ended up with the sharks. And I mean that very literally. There was like a pool of baby, not baby, but like mini sharks. And we dangled our legs in the water, and we picked up like quite an entourage as we went. We were like, we are sashaying away from home. And it was sort of like Pied Piper style, like, you know, more people and more people came and joined us, and we all stuck our feet in with the sharks and had our minute before we moved on to the evening. Anyway, so I opened up that hat box, or actually a different hat box now that I'm telling the story. But anyway, I was checking out the hat boxes, seeing which one has the best potential for sashaying away from home when I'm on vacation next week. And lo and behold, these were in the hat box, and these are 3 of my stuffies, my favorite stuffies from when I was a child, and I've been wondering where they'd gone to and thought they were lost forever because I'd wanted to give them to my children. And now my children are like a decade old, and you know, they're still into stuffies, but like it could have been more meaningful if they'd had them when they were, you know, 3 or just born. But anyway, here they are. This one's name is Rose. I remember that. Rose the green dragon. See, even then I knew that love was green. Heart chakra energies. And I think this is Raccoony, and I don't remember this one, but I know that she was very precious to me. They're all female, of course. And so anyway, aren't they cute? They're so cute. I considered having them sort of out on the table, but they are not quite mini enough for that. So that is my 1-year anniversary share moment. All right, let's have a look at this. So past life connection. So it may be that you have a sense that you have been through many past lives with your person, and that could certainly be the case and is significant. And it could also be the case, or instead of, if that's not something that you jive with, what was coming through for me when that card came out was first actual past life connection, but very quickly after that, I had the sense that there might be something in your energy or your person's energy that one of you is hanging on to, like sort of a past life within this life that is like there's another person still in your energy or in your person's energy that hasn't been fully, I want to say disposed of, but that's a bit heartless. But like maybe there's like a need for closure or a closure ritual or some, just like I don't recommend cutting cords, never cut cords, just like release cords, like sort of unfurl them from your chakras and like let them sort of drift off into the universe for it to recycle, the universe to recycle that energy. And what happens on the other end of that cord is up to the other person, right? So they can release that or they can carry it around with them. But for your part, you want to be releasing it fully and not hanging on to like the stub of a cord still attached to you. Which is, and there's like a violence to cutting as well that I don't. So anyway, you do what you like, you do what works for you, but my recommendation is to release the cords. And so maybe there's some energetic work there. In a tarot reading recently, I saw a reader suggesting doing work to release energies on your person's behalf, like doing a decording for your person, I think was the context. And that is definitely a very controversial energetic territory for healers and people on, sort of a healing path. So if you have your own instincts about that, follow those by all means. I think that, if your intentions are, like, obviously if, don't get in the way of something that's important to your person. But I think if you're setting the intention to sort of release energies kind of generally in the connection that might be impeding connection, and not in the sense of like cutting your person off from another connection that's important to them. Like obviously don't do that. That would be very, very bad karma. But if they have sort of energetic detritus that needs to be cleansed, like something that is no longer part of their life or part of their path that is just kind of like energetically still lingering, like that's the kind of stuff that maybe you want to, I think it would be ethical, in my opinion. I think it would be acceptable to set the intention to cleanse that out of the connection or out of your person's energy. I'm just adding a lot of caveats because you do want to be very, very careful. Like you don't want to mess around with other people's energy in ways that are unethical. Like, you just have to be very, very cautious with that, in my opinion, or I think you're sort of inviting that energy back into, I mean, think about it from the other perspective. Like, would you want somebody doing that energetic work on you? If your answer is an immediate no, then don't do it, obviously. If it's like, you know, you're trusting that a person, you know, would be doing it for the sake of healing and, you know, sort of cleansing your energy, and that sounds like a welcome thing to you, then I think that's, you know, a pretty acceptable intention to set, as long as it's like you're always doing it in the highest good, right? So if it best serves. So always, you know, like add in those words even, you know, like cleansing this person's energy if it best serves, if it's in their highest good, you know, that kind of thing. Potentially if it's in the highest good of your connection, but even there I think it gets iffy. Like if it's in their highest good, I think it's ethical. If it's in the highest good generally, you know, if it serves, I think that's ethical. And then, you know, you can feel into what feels ethical from there for you. So, and then we have, okay, back of the deck we had sacrifice. I'm just going to jump around. I hope that's okay. So giving up something now for a future reward. So there might have been in the background a bit of a, or there might now be in the background a bit of a, because we're looking at current energies, like a bit of a sense that there's something that needs to be let go of. And I mean, that kind of jives with this. I did not plan to go from here to there. That would have been very clever of me, but I just kind of go by intuition most of the time. But anyway, here we are with like intuitively lining up. So, or there might be, you know, if you have had like a heavy investment in work or a passion project or, you know, the things that make your soul sing, you know, I don't know if there's something that needs to be sort of, I won't say put to bed, but put to bed for now, you know, like sacrificed. So if there's, or it may be that something in the connection itself, you know, maybe you're sacrificing current engagement with the person in your heart. And I don't mean engagement, like put a ring on it engagement. I mean like engaging, connecting. Like maybe you're taking a break from that for the sake of letting things cool down, for example, you know, in order to sort of process and come back potentially stronger, or at least in the way that best serves. What did I pull next? Self-awareness, tapping into your higher self, questioning routines and patterns. So that may be related. So if you are cultivating your own awareness and sort of, I mean, it's always important and necessary, in my opinion, to question our own routines and patterns. Like first you have to notice that you have a routine, that you have a pattern, and then, you know, I think bringing awareness to it is key. So I think for a lot of people, there's a lot of people like to shift energy and to do that very consciously. But I sort of go back to the Buddhist idea that bringing awareness to what you're doing, why you're doing it, potentially, you know, and just sitting with it and just allowing it is key. You know, I don't think you can set an intention to shift energy. You can do, you know, rituals and things to actually shift energy. You can like, you know, somatically get it out, like go dancing, you know, go to yoga, like do whatever it is that, you know, like get into your body, like even just do somatic counseling or therapy. My cats are making an alley cat racket in the background. An hour ago they were licking each other and now they're chasing each other and having at it. So they were licking each other's ears and faces. It was quite adorable. I've seen the dominant one lick the less dominant one quite a lot, but this is the non-dominant one licking the dominant one and then flipping, and they were both licking each other's faces, and it was so cute. They were sitting on that raccoon's head at the time, like lying together kind of on top of the raccoon. Maybe I'll post a picture because it was pretty adorable. So all there was like a little raccoon butt popping out between the two cats. So anyway, yeah, so feeling into what your own routines and patterns are and trusting that, you know, your person might be doing, if there's some mirroring going on between you, there might be, they might be doing the same work on their side, and tapping into your higher self and like, here you are, we're here, right? And then we've got apology, forgiveness through mutual understandings. So if there's something that either of you need to apologize for. This card is emphasizing focusing on forgiveness and coming to an understanding. And sort of, I think part of an apology is realizing why, like where the other person was coming from, why they did what they did, and, or conveying to your person, like why you behaved in the way that you did that maybe they don't understand. And that apology is only going to be as effective as the ears that are listening to that narrative, right? So if you're, if all you want to hear is, like, I'm sorry I was shitty, like I behaved in a shitty way and I'm sorry, and like if that maybe that's the important piece for you, but there's always, like, we're all always like doing our best with the information we have at the time, right? And so, or most of us are. All of us, I'm not sure that we all are. I can think of a high profile person or two who might be the exception to that rule at this time. But in any event, I think, generally speaking, the majority of us, the vast majority of us are, in those energies of trying to become better, right? Like questioning ourselves, questioning where we fall down, questioning why we do things in self-limiting ways or, self-sabotaging ways or ways that hurt other people, and, noticing those things, like hearing other people, becoming aware of it, setting the intention to shift it, and just like observing yourself. Like, I think that's the key, not necessarily, you don't have to be like, I suck, I must change everything about myself in order to be worthy of connection. No, you just need to show up. You just need to show your face. You need to connect. You need to be there and actually like speak words and have, an energetic exchange with the other person. And if you're aware of your own stuff and you're allowing it to shift, like just being aware of it allows it to shift. And it kind of goes up all by itself, to kind of quote Nina Simone. Patience, manifestations are on the way. This little typo here bothers me, but I will be patient with it. I'd like to manifest tarot cards that don't have typos. Yes, please. Thank you, Spirit. All right, let's get into the tarot. I like this deck. This one's working for me. It's a little less intensely romantic than that other one I've been using that is similar in appearance. So how is your person feeling about you at this time? What are their feelings for you at this time? I think we might get a couple of cards. This deck is so enormous. It's like wide, long, and just so many cards. Thick cards. For a really difficult time getting my hands around it. But in any event, what is your person feeling for you at this time? We've got the Destroyer, light attributes, releasing what is potentially destructive, preparing for new life. Shadow attributes, intoxication with destructive power, destroying others' dreams or potential. And we have Lover. We've got the light attributes are great passion and devotion, unbridled appreciation of someone or something. And shadow attributes, obsessive passion that harms others, self-destructive devotion. So we've got releasing what is, because this is coming out in the upright and this is in the negative, or in the reverse, I'm taking, I'd say, more emphasis on the light attributes and the shadow attributes of this one. So again, releasing what is potentially destructive, preparing for new life. So your person might see you as that energetic cleanup that we were talking about before. And preparing for a new life, that could be a new phase of life, that could be, it could be literal new life, if you are with child, it could be starting a new job or moving into a new place, just some kind of new start in your life. And so possibly they're seeing you sort of like cutting to the chase, is that the expression? Like cutting, I want to say cutting the chaff. Chase and chaff are sort of getting mixed up in my brain, like, wow, the idioms of yesteryear are starting to fade. I'm sure that's not a bad thing. But I feel like we're moving into a new era, and like it's always been the responsibility of the generation before to feed forward the idioms, and I feel like they're just getting, they're dying out. Maybe every generation feels that, I don't know. But like there's, you know, like that's a very farmer kind of metaphor that has probably been around for a long, long time, separating the wheat from the chaff. And I feel like nobody says these things anymore. Like we have an antipathy towards cliches, but the cliches hold meaning. They hold history. They're like a repository of archival thought in a culture. In any event, that's a whole other ramble. So obsessive passion that harms others and self-destructive devotion. So they may see you as, maybe they're seeing you as releasing some of that potentially obsessive passion, or, you know, maybe you were devoted to the connection or devoted to them to the point where they viewed it as self-destructive, and they see you now releasing that and sort of preparing for what's ahead. This is the Tarot of the Divine. Oh my goodness, it matches my nail polish. Look at that. Like it was meant to be. Okay, so we're going to stick with current energies. This is the best deck. I can't believe how easy it is to shuffle. I have not used it in a reading before, I don't think. Pretty sure it was brand new when it went into that crawl space. So it's still like, they're a little bit stiff, but I can tell it's going to be, they're like just, whoa, flexible enough that I know they're going to wear in nicely. Interesting. Okay, Spirit, please tune me in to the current energies of this connection. So we'll get a few cards for, actually, I'm feeling kind of called to get past. So we'll pause on that. So we'll do past energies. We'll just get 2 cards, maybe 3. 4 of Wands, holy. Past energies of this connection with the person in your heart. Whoa. We got Judgment in reverse and Queen of Wands, and I'm not sure which way that came out, but that's how I turned it over. Back of deck, we've got Page of Wands in reverse. Okay, so what I'm sort of getting here is that you may have been at the point of, either at the precipice of making a commitment with your person, or you may have been committed. Maybe you were fully committed, you know, in a long-term relationship, marriage, and there was, something has happened such that there's been a bit of a break there. And so there may have been, it might have been that there was, you know, sort of a movement towards commitment, and that has precipitated the separation that kind of seems, or the, you know, maybe just a separation of energies, like maybe you're still together but feeling a bit of a, if you are fully in a relationship, maybe you're together but feeling some distance between you. It's like there's a, like either something came to light, or perhaps even just the where, like maybe you're in different pages about commitment, or about what a commitment should look like. Or something may have actually happened, like that conversation, that sort of question, you know, or open question even, might have brought up some things that one of you was not aware of, and that maybe you're sort of reckoning with right now. It does seem like there's some extremely passionate feelings that have been at play in the connection, but perhaps like this is sort of with these 2 together, and then the Page of Wands in reverse. This is 4 of Wands and Judgment in reverse. And so with the Page of Wands in reverse as well, although the Queen of Wands is, this is Pele, the goddess Pele, who has been going off in Hawaii, I hear, over the last little bit. And like there's a volcano that has been exploding and fountaining and doing its thing. And that's the volcano associated with the goddess Pele. And so she's been quite a ferocious, strong presence. And of course the Queen of Wands is like everything juicy and good and just, you know, like passionate deliciousness. And I actually wanted to read the guidebook, which is now under a cat. Oh, it's not even under you. Sorry, as you were. My apologies. But this can be a person who's resisting commitment or who's not suited to commitment. It can also be just sort of a feeling of a lack of momentum in the relationship or in the connection. It could be like sort of a wandering energy or an unreliable energy. It could be a fiery personality involved in the connection. It could be like trying to decide what one wants in a partner. And so it's just really, I'm finding it really interesting that we've got this with this and then this with this. This is back of the deck, of course, so it might be that there's, well, the guidebook for this, I just flipped open to it, is naivety, petulance, a lack of imagination, pessimism. So it might be the energy of just sort of not being able to see a way to find a productive solution here. That might be the energies that you've been in the recent past or even the deep past. I didn't really specify. And then for the Queen of Wands, it's because it's Pele, I wanted to read it out. So Hawaiian deity, the Queen of Wands represents a fiery force. The volcano goddess Pele's rages can be destructive, but her blessings are just as powerful. She is the creativity of dance, the nourishment of rich soil, and the chaotic force of an explosion. And in the upright, she represents optimism, independence, confidence, passion, and verve. So it seems like there's definitely passion here, but maybe there's like a little bit of an inability to sort of harness it into a commitment or like an actual formalized, codified relationship. So maybe the connection has been, okay, so now it's sort of coming through a bit more. So the connection might have been very sexual in nature. It may be that you've been, you know, like in either a hookup situation or just sort of relying on the sexual energy of the connection to carry the connection, and maybe up to maybe for years. And but it's sort of, there's like a reckoning, like maybe things are shifting or becoming more serious, or you know, there's like this energy here, like it could just be that maybe there isn't even a separation, you know, maybe you've been at this sort of precipice where it's like, this is new, like going into these more committed energies might be new for one or both of you. You know, maybe this is sort of uncharted territory, and there's like a feeling of, you know, like, can I do this? Like, how do I do this? What do I do? Like, what does this even mean? You know, like a bit of an energy of, like, the passion is there, but the like knowing how to do it isn't fully there. So yeah, let's move on. Just gonna cut the deck a few times. I feel like I don't want to know where those cards end up before I start shuffling. Whoa, I want to give them every opportunity to come back out. Okay, so we're going to look at current energies of the connection. And I know I'm sort of reduplicating, and I could have just busted out the tarot in the first place and combined the oracle and the tarot. But I feel like it's kind of an ever-evolving refinement. Like I'm still sort of finding my sea legs with this. I mean, when I used to pull tarot, I used to do a Celtic cross. But I really like the versatility of pulling cards on the fly and pulling more than one card for, you know, past energies, for example. Okay, Spirit, can we get the current? What's going on currently in this connection? Ten of Swords, Knight of Pentacles in reverse. Okay, and we've got the Moon in reverse. So Ten of Swords is kind of like, it can only get better from here. It's sort of the most intense. Like the worst has happened. So your connection it may have gotten to a crisis point, and that's sort of perhaps where you're at this time. Or it may just be that it feels like there's nothing left, like it's done. It's, you know, everything's sort of been said, everything's been considered, all options have been used up, essentially. And so, and with the Knight of Coins in reverse, but the optimistic side of that is, of course, that the worst has happened. It is, you know, the only place to go from here is up. So, you know, from here it's sort of recovery mode rather than like there isn't more crisis ahead. The crisis is now behind you. And so, but, you know, acknowledging the crisis and being in those energies and feeling the grief and, you know, like acknowledging that you are there, you're in that crisis moment, or you're like, you know, perhaps coming out of the crisis moment, like you've acknowledging that that has happened, you know, that you've reached the point where I'm tripping over my words because I want to always make things better. But like that's the point of the Ten of Swords, is like it's that sort of plutonic inevitable transformation, like you've reached that point. The mythology of this card is Sedna, the myth of Sedna, which is an Inuit, Canadian Inuit myth about a goddess who became a goddess. She was in a boat with her father, and the idea is that there were stormy seas, you know, choppy waters, and he pushed her out of the boat, and then she fell out of the boat, who knows. But in any event, she tried to get back in the boat, and he cut off her fingers because she was, you know, one assumes pulling him overboard by trying to get back in the boat. And so rather than giving her assistance, he saved himself by betraying her. And so she sank to the bottom of the ocean, and she turned into these marine creatures that basically she sort of lived in the depths of the ocean and for a long time, and then she became the goddess Sedna. And so she's sort of about betrayal, backstabbing, you know, when you thought you were going to be protected, like the one who's supposed to protect you ends up not only rejecting you, but creating the circumstances that cause you to flounder, and rather than, you know, protecting as their role has been in the past, as your expectation of their role would have been to continue into the future. And the Ten of Swords could also refer to like a situation where like maybe there's a crisis point in your life or in your partner's life. Like there could be something external to the relationship causing crisis and sort of, you know, getting to like when there's, you know, for example, a death in the family or something like that, you know, knock on wood, knock on Yoda. So, you know, it might be that there's like kind of a lack of support or just a distraction from the relationship, like something that's pulling all of the attention away from the relationship itself. So it could be even like a work situation, like putting so much into work, so that came up earlier, that there's nothing left for nurturing the relationship. And so the relationship consequently might be, you know, sort of stuck in routine or just not progressing forward. I feel like the guidebook had something else. Patience, apathy, irresponsibility, anxiety, or there could just be some, you know, like anxiety that's really coming through. The moon, at the back of the deck, we've got the moon, and so the moon, as interpreted by this deck, I mean, the moon can refer to intuition and have lots of positive meanings as well, but in this deck it refers to the sort of traditional tarot meaning of confusion, illusion. There's the two shape-shifting tanukis, which are the sort of like a Japanese raccoon, and one's looking up at the moon in the sky and one's looking down at the moon in the water. So the question is like, which is the real moon? And it's funny, there was a red bridge where I lived and a princess story there as well, which is probably part of why I gravitated towards this deck. So in any event, the moon in reverse can mean coming out of confusion. So, you know, things being revealed, things that had been hidden that maybe were causing pain, like coming to the surface, coming into clarity. It can be about relief, resolution. If there's been some deception, the deception is coming to light, and perhaps working through what was unclear, so things are becoming clear. So bottom of the deck energies, of course, are sort of like what's in the background. let's get some current energies of your person, or not current energies, but your person's, what am I trying to say here? Ooh, that was a beautiful bridge shuffle. Nice one. Sometimes it works better on an angle like that with the corners. I'm sorry, I probably am a little bit autistic. Or so my mother has always said. So you'll have to forbear my analysis of card shuffling as we go. So what's your person's energy in the connection at this time? Got the Knight of Wands in reverse. Under that we have the Ace of Cups. I might just take all of these. Let's go. So these all came out together, so I'll just pull them. We've got Eight of Wands in reverse, Seven of Pentacles, Seven of Coins, and Queen of Cups in reverse. So I did want to note that on the bottom of the deck we've got the Fool. I don't know if you can see that, but it's the Little Mermaid in reverse. Fool in reverse. Let's see if I can get that in the... There we go. And I'm bringing that in because it almost seems like we've got a pair, and then another pair. Like these were already kind of talking to each other. And then I was already wanting to bring that in, but it really is kind of echoing the energies here. So your person's in, and it's really interesting that all these cards came out. Your person's in these energies of, like they want to sort of rush into a reconnection. They want to rekindle things, but they're being reckless about it. They're in this kind of impatient, reckless, almost arrogant energy of like wanting to maybe move past the past problems, like whatever those issues were that, you know, caused that very intense break. It's like they want to just kind of skip over those. I just also have to shout out Tatterhead here. She's the coolest. She's the coolest, and I love that she's the Knight of Wands. If you're not familiar with the legend of Tatterhood, the myth of Tatterhood from Norway, it's the coolest story I ever read in my whole life. And it was a big part of my childhood, actually. But so in reverse, Knight of Wands in reverse just traditionally refers to sort of recklessness, haste, like not really, you know, checking to make sure things are aligning before rushing in. And what they're rushing into is this reconnection, love, devotion. So it's almost like they just want to push past and like kind of sweep things under the rug rather than doing the work. But there's like an apathy or a lethargy, like a bad timing issue, like they're not coming in quickly enough or at the right time, like the time that they need to, with, you know, maybe that devotional energy. Like there's like a recklessness about it, but a bad timing element. So, you know, and maybe they've waited too long and they ought to have come in before now. Maybe they are coming through just as you're, you know, sort of recalibrating your own energies and kind of getting back on your feet after, you know, after having an intense break. But it does seem like they want to work on their timing issues. So that's what I'm getting from these cards. Yeah, so I see, so as much as your person might be, there's like a rushing element or a reckless element to sort of how they're wanting to rekindle or reprise or just kind of get back into the sort of loving energies of the connection, you know, and that's why I'm saying it might be that they're trying to skip over. It's like a misstep, like a skip step that kind of is coming through with these cards. But as much as they're doing that, they do want to work on like bringing things around in the right way, but they're seeing this is kind of coming through in two different ways. One is this modifying this, and one is this modifying this. So I'm seeing both that they're wanting to work on just kind of that out of sync quality that we were talking about at the beginning. So they want to sort of put in like the diligence, the care, you know, and just sort of like take those steps that are going to lead to being able to kind of address the timing element and put that to right. the other story that's coming through here is that they are potentially feeling conflicted, or not conflicted, but lethargic or apathetic about working on the connection, like actually putting in the work. So they want to rush in, but they don't want to do the actual work to make things better. So for some of you, one of those stories might be true, and the other story might be true for others of you. And so you'll know which one you resonate with. So either they're working on fixing a timing element between you, or they're, so maybe they're aware that they are sort of rushing in without addressing the problems, or, just being a little bit reckless, and they're committed, they see their pattern and they want to work on it. Alternatively, they're very much in this energy, don't see their pattern, and they're not taking the care and the time, or they're like not motivated to do the work that will bring the connection back around to this place, because they just want to rush in and sort of skip over that step. Like, this is the skip step here. And so with the Queen of Cups, they might be in this kind of like energy of, it's almost coming through. I should read the guidebook again, because I think it'll say it better than the words that were about to come out of my mouth. Immaturity, selfishness, smothering, sulking, spite. So that's sulking energy. I was going to express it as like potentially a little bit of like a whininess. And then with the Fool in reverse, the Fool in reverse can mean like coming out of this rushing energy and taking more care. But referring to the guidebook that comes with this deck, it has apathy, hesitation. In reverse, it has apathy, hesitation, a faulty choice, doldrums, recklessness. And so that's kind of reiterating the message of the Knight of Wands in reverse and the Eight of Wands in reverse. So there's just very much, with these three reversals here, there's very much a message of being in these energies of not taking sufficient care, like wanting this outcome with you, but maybe being a little bit maudlin, or just kind of in like spite. Maybe they're in a little bit of a spite habit or pattern. And it's funny, I was just thinking about something. I took a little pause for child reasons, and I was thinking about, I don't know why this is coming. I guess I've just been sorting through a lot of stuff, like material possessions, and I've been thinking that as a metaphor for, like decluttering energetically as well. And there are so many strange sounds happening all of a sudden. There's my dog eating in the background. The cat just made a really weird kind of yawning, stretching sound in his sleep. And I think there might be an airplane going over, which I live in a very quiet place, and that's actually quite rare. So just like a cluttery energy all of a sudden as I'm talking about this. Anyway, I was thinking about how partly that clutteriness is something that I've inherited down through my ancestors, and the idea that we are here at this time on this earth right now as to heal our family lines. Like, we who are here now are the ones who have the responsibility, at least, people who accept that responsibility, shall we say, are aware of it and accept it as, something that they can do and want to do. So we're here to heal whatever that ancestral karma is. So, all of our ancestors have sort of fed it up through the family line, and it ends with us. And I just felt called to say that as I was contemplating this Fool in reverse. I thought maybe it would come into the reading at some point. And so I don't quite see the tie-in to the cards myself right at this moment, but perhaps maybe that's a message that resonates for someone. Maybe that's something someone needs to hear. Maybe it's your person who's like coming up with, like they're reckoning with their ancestral karma. And, maybe there's like a tendency to skip steps, that they're at this sort of precipice, this potential of not doing it that way. And so there's like this emotional component to that. There's like a hesitation, a rushing and a hesitation. I guess that's why I'm struggling to get this through. So there's a rushing element and there's a hesitation element. And this card is underscoring both the rushing and the hesitation. There's a rushing into connection. There's a hesitation to do the work required by the connection. And then there's this like feeling of like a dissatisfaction around that apathy, or around the hesitation. It's like this, I guess this is like an emotional immaturity. So it's something maybe they don't like in themselves, but they haven't yet made their way to what work to do or how to do that work. And again, like going back to the before, we've sort of, the message coming through is that someone in this connection is like, it's new ground and they don't know how to, they just don't know. Like they haven't been here before. So yeah, okay. Whew. What are your energies in the connection at this time? I might try and take less cards for this one. What are your energies at this time? Ha! Spirit had other ideas. We've got 10 of Wands in reverse, the Emperor, King of Swords in reverse, and the Hangman in reverse. And bottom of the deck we have Ace of Swords in reverse. So the bottom of the deck energies, I'm just going to start here. So this is like a failure of communication. So either you were in the energies of not communicating, kind of keeping your cards close to your chest, or you feel like perhaps communication is broken down in the connection. And so there's a sense of burden here, and it's like burden to the point of kind of breaking. And you are feeling a need to get control over that. You're wanting to figure out what the patterns, again, we're back to patterns and cycles, figure out what the patterns are and make it right, figure out a way to take control of the situation and move it forward in a beneficial way. And so what specifically that path will be different for different folks accessing this reading, I sense. But there's a very strong commitment to taking charge and dealing with the feelings of overwhelm or feelings of inadequacy, or the things that have been sort of plaguing the connection or plaguing you in the connection up to this point. So you're wanting to sort of take charge and bring about a better outcome. However, there is a little bit of, it's like almost an inability to deal with these qualities of, and I'm not sure if these are qualities of your person that wasn't coming through when we were looking at your person's energies, or possibly in yourself. But this King of Swords in reverse is not great. And so, but the Hangman in reverse is almost like wanting, I was seeing kind of a duplicate, so a little bit of like wanting to take control, coming out of maybe a period of contemplation of those not great energies. The not great energies are to do with like over controlling a situation, possibly being domineering, maybe even to the point of, possibly to the point where it's destructive of the relationship or destructive of the connection and potentially destructive of another person. So if that's been a quality in your relationship or your connection, or if that's something, like a pattern that you see in yourself, or, like as we were talking about ancestral patterns, it's sort of like maybe you've been a bit paralyzed in how to deal with that and you're coming out of that. So that's one possible interpretation. Another might be that you're still kind of not knowing how to handle that energy, and you're kind of almost like paralyzed by you're still in that paralyzed state, essentially. And so it might be that what's happening is there's this breakdown in communication that has led to you feeling quite burdened, and that you just need to take care of yourself. you know, maybe the connection as well, but definitely take care of yourself is coming through. And maybe I just am getting very much the sense that you're not sure how to handle some of the less productive energies that might be present in the connection. And again, I don't know if that's, you know, for some people that'll be like energies you see in your person. Maybe for others that'll be energies you see in yourself. If you've noticed any destructive, not self-destructive, but like over-controlling possible energies, you know, there's something there, whether it's one of you, you know, or maybe it's like the connection, maybe the connection itself has been sort of over-controlled to the point where it's like stagnating a bit. And then it looks like there's a desire to be coming out of that. And how successful you've been or how far you've gotten along that journey will be different, I think, for different folks accessing the reading. So let's have a look at potential future energies in the reading. Just going to do a little cut. Totally random. This is like an ADHD cut right here. Okay, Spirit, what are the current... No, sorry. Okay, Spirit, where is this connection going? What are the potential... What's the potential future outcome projecting forward from current energies? And to bear in mind that current energies change and shift from moment to moment to moment. So we're just projecting ahead from this moment right now. Far be it for me to advocate for overconsumption of tarot readings, but you know, that is why it's useful to come back day after day and, you know, check on the energies another day. If that's something that serves, it can definitely be addictive. So we've got the Seven of Swords in reverse, the World in reverse. We've got the Seven of Pentacles coming through again, and Knight of Cups in reverse. And bottom of the deck, we have the Moon coming through again, this time in the upright. Bottom of the deck energies, we do have the Moon. I think I need some clarifiers, so I'm just going to take that and put it there. So, Seven of Swords in reverse. Seven of Swords, of course, is about sneakiness. We've got the Coyote here. And the Coyote, in the interpretation of this deck, is about deception. And it says that it can range from, you know, sort of fun trickery to outright deception. But, you know, the Coyote to me is a trickster, like a trickster spirit that has, it does sort of ensnare itself in its own traps in indigenous lore of the Salish Sea, which is where I am actually. But it also carries that sort of trickster energy of kind of like the Shakespearean fool, of bringing to light things shadows that maybe we don't want to face. And so, and doing so in like kind of a playful, cheeky way. And Seven of Swords in reverse can be about coming out of deception, coming clean, a confession. That's my dog gnawing on an antler in the background. All the strange sounds when the tarot comes out. So, what did it have here? Conscience, confession, getting caught, outsmarted, deception. So essentially, you know, if this coyote is creating a shadow puppet of a dinosaur, then it's like somebody sees the coyote behind that there's a coyote creating that deception. And And the world in reverse can mean that something is not at an end, but it can also mean that things have ended and, or like hanging on when they should have ended, or imperfection, disappointment, shortcuts, short-sightedness, anxiety is what this book is calling to. So that sort of shortcuts is kind of coming. It's almost like the shortcuts that perhaps your person wanted, like that skip step I was mentioning. Maybe they're being found out. And I say that in the sense, like, as I say that, I'm imagining both the 3D sense of, maybe there's some kind of shortcut that they took that you've learned about, or that you're learning about, or that you're about to learn about, since this is future energies. Possibly also, it's like their pattern. Like because we've been talking about ancestral karma or karmic inheritances. So if they have a pattern of skipping steps, of perhaps like, I don't want to say avoiding intimacy, more like jumping too quickly into intimacy in a way that precludes actual legitimate connection. And by legitimate, I mean like the sort of connection where you're seen and you see and you allow yourself to be seen. And so, sometimes if we jump too quickly into a connection, it's like we're using almost like the pretense of intimacy as a smoke show to hide to hide our vulnerability, to hide our real selves, like as a mask. And sort of like using sex as a way to avoid intimacy. We did have that sexual energy coming through in the beginning. And I don't think there's anything wrong with indulging fully in, fiery sexual energies. I think that can be a really beautiful, wonderful, amazing thing. If there is a way in which it's being skipped to, in lieu of, as a way to kind of distract, like a smoke and mirrors from actual connection, maybe you're now finding out maybe your person is finding out that that's their own pattern. Like there's something kind of coming to light here, and it's evoking some anxiety. Or maybe your person's worried about being found out in that regard. Like whatever sneaky thing that they have done in the past, maybe they're anxious about, they're going to be feeling some anxiety about that coming to light. Yeah, so the Knight of Cups it's that same sort of hasty energy of avoiding feelings. It can be about avoiding conflict. And if that's a pattern that your person is in, or that has sort of beleaguered the connection itself, this is, again, the energy of working on something. So it could be the energy of, working to not be too emotional in the connection, so working not to get carried away with the passion that is there. It could also be like working on this pattern of avoiding conflict, or of avoiding getting into, I want to say the muck and the mire, like standing in the mud. Like if your person has avoided getting into because then, what am I trying to say? So in a relationship, I'm going to say beyond a connection, even in a connection, but in a relationship, for sure, of any variety, if you want to continue being in relationship with a person, conflict is going to come up at some point. And there has to be a productive way to manage conflict. You have to be able to use your words, like the kindergarten lessons, all those things on that list of things we ought to have learned in kindergarten that, a lot of adults kind of fall down at. And using your words would be number one on the list, right? So being able to articulate what your boundaries are, articulate what works for you, what doesn't work for you, articulate what you want and what you don't want, and listening to the other person as they articulate the same things. And, being open to somebody calling you on your shit, right? You can't develop a relationship unless you're open to feedback and willing to give feedback as well, without worrying that you're risking the relationship in doing so. So if your person has been in that energy of, being kind of sneaky, avoiding conflict, it's like there's that's being worked on, whether it's them working on it directly, whether it's spirit working on it. Some kind of work is happening here, like a cultivation. There's a cultivation of moving into a new way of being. And bottom of the deck, there's some confusion. There's there's this illusion, right? Like if the illusion's in the background, then the revealing is coming. But it can also be these sort of intuitive energies of being guided by the moon, being guided by spirit, being guided by intuition, being tapped into your subconscious, and those messages. It's almost like advice coming through here. I did want to get a clarifier for the Knight of Cups, but I think we've done it. I might want a clarifier for the moon. So could we get a clarifier for the moon, and / any last sort of advice or messages for the collective accessing this reading? So let's make those two separate questions. So a clarifier for the moon. What sort of moon energies are we looking at here? Because that could have two very different meanings. That was many cards, and I saw the first two, so we will take those. We've got 3 of Wands in reverse and King of Wands in reverse. So 3 of Wands in reverse is sort of like the potential is there, but it's not being acted upon, or there's delays or setbacks. Like there's I've been getting a lot of messages of delays and kind of the energy not coming through as maybe it was meant to be expressed. King of Wands in reverse can be about like a lack of leadership, a lack of passion, not bringing things about in a productive way, not serving the interests of the group or the collective. So it just sort of looks like it's that timing element again. Like there's work to be done, and it's maybe just being procrastinated on or not focused on. So let's skip ahead to advice. So what's your advice in these circumstances? And we'll just close with the tarot there, and then I do want to pull a couple of oracle cards. We have 6 of Wands in reverse. So many Wands in reverse. We've got the 3, the King, and now the 6 of Wands in reverse. So I'd say your advice is not to focus on any sort of, like whether it's within the connection or whether it's beyond the connection. Don't focus on the negative. Try and focus on, I mean, it's worded in a kind of negative way here, but don't focus on what is not succeeding. Just try and focus on, like, turn this around and try and focus on what successes there are or have been. Focus on building your own success and getting into these sort of warrior, celebrant energies of, coming back celebrated. Focus on your own goals, focus on what you need to achieve. Any other messages? What is the advice for the collective? Rather than dwelling on what hasn't worked in the connection. 10 of Pentacles in reverse. Similar message, so focus on, not on, what is, like, maybe there you might have a grief process with, if this is a connection that feels like, it kind of seemed like you were feeling like you needed to walk away from this, or that you just feel like you need to kind of take control of the situation. So if there's a failure to produce here, and by that I mean like some kind of legacy, like some kind of, you thought perhaps that the relationship was building to, a sort of generational satisfaction, and maybe it's not. But rather than focusing on that at this time, or even if maybe it is, don't put your focus there right now. For now, be focused on, I'm just getting the message of focusing on the present moment, focus on, one foot in front of the other, figuring out what your goals are, like what's going to bring you to success, and take that next step. You don't need to see 6 steps ahead, whether it's in the connection or beyond, with your own goals in life. You don't need to see 6 steps ahead. You only need to know the next step. And that's all that Spirit generally will reveal to you, because, beyond, like, there's so many factors past that point that depend on the factors, on the steps you take before that. So just, your own intuition will always reveal to you the next step. That's all you need to know. You just need to know what that next step is, maybe 2 steps ahead, but usually just that one next step, and you'll know when is the right time to take that step. So just sort of take some time to ground, tune into your own intuition, and allow the message to come through of whatever your next step is, and just do that. And then find out what the next step is at that point, and do that. And just stay very focused on the present moment. And, try and stay out of the sort of anxiety energies that, I'd say it is an open question of whether this work is going to be done eventually, but it's not happening right now, is what I would say. So focus on your own success, on what you need to do to build that success. And yeah, with that, let us get into some channeled messages. I want to pull I want to go back to this deck here. I did pre-shuffle, so we're going to get right into it. So I was so excited to get this deck, and I haven't had a chance to use it yet. I don't think I've used it in a reading at all yet. So here we go. We've got 2 cards coming through. We've got 5555, which is clarity. 5 is the number of change and transformation, and we've got, 1s are about beginnings and 5s are about changes. So clarity, great transformation, major changes, opportunity, fast-paced forward, process, tilting so you can see it and pause wherever it works. You aren't a victim of circumstance, rather you are the beneficiary of it. If that weren't the case, life would be pretty dull. You will set yourself up for success in the long run if you're willing to adapt to this shift. Everything is working out for the best. At long last, you are accomplishing what you set out to do. Everything will work out perfectly in the end. Well, that's a really beautiful message. 1551, we've got hold your vision. Manifestation, abundance, money, dreams, vision, and prosperity. Focus on the good and maintain your concentration on the outcomes you desire. It's time to put your faith and time into your ideas and pursue your goals with all your might. You have such a beautiful, courageous, and brave spirit. Put your faith and time into your ideas and pursue your goals with all your might. Manifestation, abundance, money, dreams, vision, and prosperity. Hold your vision and clarity. So those are 2 very powerful cards of manifestations coming in. And so if there are things in your life that you've been working on manifesting, now is the time. Now is the time to go for it. And, if that manifestation is for your person, then hold your vision, I would say. But I do think there's a very strong call here to focusing on goals that are external to the connection. So you can take or leave that depending on what resonates for you. Let's get a few. I think I want to go Hidden Truth Oracle. So I've pre-shuffled all of these, so we're just going to jump right in. So we're looking at messages from your person. Let's get a couple of messages, channeled messages from your person. So Spirit, please tune me into the collectives, the person in their heart, and any messages that their higher self would like to share. So if it's coming through without any ego, some of these messages might require a little bit of ego, but what messages do they, from their higher self, want you to know? We will be together again after all that. So there you go. Hold your vision. You don't know how hard it was to let you go, and I can't stop thinking about you. Bottom of the deck, we have I don't react when people mention you. Let's get a few Hermit Tarot. Those are three very, very clear messages, so, you know, perhaps that's what the end of the confusion is that's coming in. But I am manifesting you. I am coming, trust. My life started when I met you. Goodness, these are very, very positive. I never imagined so much perfection. And you are so beautiful. Why do you need me? And the last one was, I lie awake thinking about our future. So those are overall very, very clear and positive. That's sort of unequivocally clear. So your person is feeling some insecurities, but just very certain that things are going to come back around. So I'd say the ball's in your court. And if you're, you know, again, you don't need to know how or even if this is all going to come to pass, but what you do need to know is what your next step is. And so just keep focusing on that next step was your advice from Spirit. But these are looking like very, very beautiful, positive messages from your person, from their higher self. And so whether their 3D self will keep step with their higher self, you know, that's what they seem like they're having trouble, like sort of bringing it through from the 5D into the 3D. So that's their work, and maybe that's their ancestral karma. Yeah. That was a really beautiful, potent reading. I frequently set the intention to do something that's kind of light and breezy with these readings, and it never goes there. That's not what comes through when I read tarot. That's always like straight to the jugular. So I hope that serves you, and thank you for being here with me for my anniversary reading. It's been such a treat, and please do like, subscribe. If you can leave a comment, perhaps you could leave a gift, a little gift box in the comments to let me know that you've gotten this far in the reading. And yeah, here's to another year, if not longer. Thanks so much for being here and allowing me to read your cards for you. Bye.